It is the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. And this isn't going to be a major rant, is it? Right? This isn't me. This isn't coming from me today. This is not one that I picked. Okay? So if this all descends into
It's my fault.
People getting upset, like last time we talked about a subject similar to this, with, people trying really hard and then feeling like we're accusing them of not working hard enough. Clearly, it's going to be epic because I caught you either smoking or smudging.
Well, I don't smoke, at least not before sex.
Not before sex, right? Okay. So, today's episode name is Desperate Housewitches, isn't it? Where does that name come from? There's that old show called Desperate Housewives, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all a bunch of murderous bitches, but we're not talking about that. So the whole point of this is we were going to talk about kind of armchair magicianing. I just kind of thought that this time of year, kind of the new year, everybody makes all these resolutions, don't they? And then by about 2 weeks later, they've given up on them because it's too much effort to change their ways. So I kind of thought with the kind of target setting people do at this kind of beginning of a year, of a new year, a new chapter, that sort of thing. I'm going to go to the gym more often, or I'm going to eat healthy for 3 days and then order a kebab, like, those kind of things kind of going on. I just thought it might be a nice time to talk about how, particularly this time of year where it's cold, in this part of the world anyway, and it's too easy to kind of curl up on the sofa and read another latest Wiccan book, or the latest book on what's the most favourite thing at the moment?
Whatever the shit Hera Blackthorn writes.
Yeah, some kind of green witchery bullshit or something like that going on, or trying to did you see that email this morning we got, Liam? The one where she tried to rebrand green witchcraft as another way of calling hedge witchery. I was like, fucking hell, that's going to kick off a certain amount of people.
I pressed the delete button on it. I was thinking about, shall I have a word with Chris about this? But then I thought, no, that's no point. It would just piss him off. But I'm glad you saw it also.
No, I did see it before you pressed delete. So that it's just, so there's kind of that kind of vibe at this time of year where people can't be bothered, or they're still too full after all those mince pies, or those attemptions. A good example is a friend of mine at work the other day said, I'm doing dry January. Said, how are you I've heard other people are doing it. How are you finding it? And she said, it's easy. She said, I can have a dry martini. I can have a dry cider. I said, I can have a dry gin. She said, I've got loads of dry things I can drink. So, I just I like that kind of loophole time of year that kind of occurs about now, where people justify not doing things that they've promised themselves they're not going to do. So I want to approach armchair magicianing, which I'll leave Liam to go and make such a comment about what you would define armchair magicianing as to be, because I know it's kind of one of those groups that we kind of take the piss out of a lot.
Well, I mean, there's two forms of armchair magician, I think. There's the all the gear but no idea type, which is what we were talking about literally, I think, 10 minutes ago. Collectors.
Yeah, collectors.
As you've known people in your family, as you were saying, that like a little interested in a bit of occultism, fancy themselves an occultist, and like doing, collect things from eBay and that. I mean, you were saying at least that one individual who was a bit of an armchair magician, at least they collected something authentic rather than probably a fake knockoff that you'd get from eBay these days.
Yeah.
Is that really any better, though? I'm not entirely sure. They're still an armchair magician. All the gear, no idea, or people that are that are swept up in this idea, which is probably to do with the school system, of copy and paste regurgitating information. So there's people that get addicted to reading books and then they think, oh, I have a theoretical understanding of this, therefore I am right, because Agrippa says this, and then someone else says it, and then someone else says it. Oh yes, that means I know how it works, when in reality they don't, because they've never demonstrated an ability. I say that probably quite a lot in the magical world. I certainly saw it an awful lot when I used to hang around with or frequent places that were filled with armchair magicians, as in magicians, because they're basically most of the time the same. There are actual magicians and ceremonial magicians and that practice, but there's a considerable amount of people that would call themselves occultists that are really armchair magicians.
And really, all they like is dress up.
Yeah, what you tend to see with more of the witchcraft thing is that is basically someone with an eating disorder and low self-esteem issues. They do get off their asses to play LARP and dress up, but they don't really do the magic. They normally are looking for a god or goddess to worship. So, you know, it is one of those things. How have I managed to all of a sudden start to be somewhat offensive, Chris? I think we need to go back to you because you started all of this.
That's fine.
Can you be offensive for a bit and then I can be the
Yeah.
nice one? Because I am the nice one, really. That's my
you are. It is
part
true.
I'm supposed to play.
It is true. So yeah, it just the reason I kind of wanted you to give the definition is because I knew you'd come out with something like all the gear and no idea, because my brain doesn't think like that. So I just knew you'd put it in a kind of succinct way. I think there's part of it is the kind of danger of it, which is that it, particularly when you've got people that practice in this, all you need is intention kind of practice.
All you need is love. I thought you were going to say.
So, you know, so I do often wonder the bullshit that these people attract to themselves in their mundane lives is because of all this dress up and this focus on the idea, if I put it out there, it will come back to me. That kind of Western karma idea is kind of all entangled in itself, where they kind of, you know, walk around as a warrior all day on one of these kind of LARPing situations, wearing these fake amulets that they think hold some kind of power. And to a certain extent, you know, intention is part of that triangle and will start to impact their lives, particularly when they start to put magical symbols around their neck that they have no understanding whatsoever about their true identity, and then kind of wonder why, you know, walking around with Thor's hammer around your throat is not going to essentially turn into concrete shoes, where they're not living in a kind of authentic or kind of borderline, I went to say pious, and that's not the word I'm after, Liam. What am I after? That kind of, you know, being the hammer of kind of truth and all those kind of ideas of kingship that are kind of held in me and ear. Kind of having a symbol of that around your neck and then not living up to its state of honor kind of thing.
Well, I mean, they've got back hair. What do you expect? Surely that's all it needed to be some sort of a Norse, I don't know, magician or something like that. I don't think they
too
have
much hair. That's all you need.
Well, I think that as long as you look the part, isn't that how it goes by nowadays? Fake it till you make it. As long as you look the part, that's all that matters, surely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that cost a fair amount of money. They bought that in Glastonbury when they were on holiday, you know, at a very extremely high marked up price. I mean, they could have got it from AliExpress for probably pennies, plus a few quid postage and packaging. But I mean, they paid full Glastonbury prices for it. Is that not more authentic? They bought it from someone else, so also had beard.
I paused then instinctively, waiting for Kermit to come up on the screen. And it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of waited in that kind of pause.
I don't think I can do that. No, I can't do that in
Whereas you
here.
can't
That's in the
meme in. I
Feisty
don't think you
Witches
can meme in
studio.
here.
Yeah, that's the Feisty Witches studio. Don't let me do that here, I'm afraid. Although maybe we should introduce memes, audio memes on ☍𝕍𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣.
No, I don't think so. This is supposed
No?
to be. No, this is supposed to be clean and uncut and unembellished with these kind of flashbang wallops that Fausty is designed for.
Oh dear.
You just
Right.
have to save them up for series, season 3 of Fausty.
Oh, I
whenever
will.
that
I will have to get some new ones for season 3 of Feisty Witches, assuming there will be a season 3, of course. Who knows? I mean, we don't make promises, do we?
We don't. But we do try to keep the plebs happy. So,
You can't call them plebs, Chris. They can hear.
So,
Well, this is the common bit, isn't it? The first
this is the
part
common bit.
before the cut-off for the extended edition, you see.
So I get to call them plebs.
Calling them plebs, yes. I was thinking, right, about the mentees we have at the moment. And I was thinking, actually, I think we've gotten rid of all of the Armchair Magicians now at this point. I'm pretty sure everyone that's on the mentorship programs actually actively working towards something that is basically a little above their pay grade, or is at least a little difficult at the moment, which I think is really good, because it means that everyone we've got currently, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone that we've currently got is actually a proper practitioner. They're not like just playing about. Can you think of any? I know we've gotten rid of 1 or 2 that have just been like, look, seriously, get on with it, or just F off and come back when you're ready.
No, I think we've scared most of them off. I wanted to say something really rude just to see if he's listening, really, is to say that we haven't heard from Paul in ages. And I was really hoping
you can't say that.
I was really
Paul.
hoping you're not calling Paul an armchair magician.
No. He's always quite busy though, isn't he? He's always doing something. I know that he was doing the tarot course, and then obviously he's got his career and his job and that. And there's lots of unfortunate souls in the world these days that very much need a Paul in their life, no doubt. And then obviously he has his various soirees and magical soirees would probably be the best thing. I would imagine he's quite busy. Maybe we'll have to reach out to him.
I was just, I don't know. I just suddenly thought of people that we'd fell by the wayside. And I'm just like, I haven't heard from him for ages. So I'm hoping he still listens.
The last time we heard from him was when I started actively calling out his name and saying, if you have any issues, go and see Paul. So maybe he's just swamped with people. Like when you watch an episode of EastEnders or Hollyoaks, if you've been affected by the themes in this program, call 0800. I need a counselor. Maybe that's what it is.
0800 call Paul.
Yeah. Look him up on Facebook. Private message.
I just miss how beautiful his work is. I wonder if part of him stopped showing it on the basis that he felt like he was like shaming all these armchair magicians that don't practice anything at all with these kind of beautiful displays, because his craft is so beautiful. That sort of stuff doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody wants that, but it's part of the performance, I guess, that he considers his practice to be. So I love seeing that, and we haven't seen any pictures of soirees because those are always exciting too.
Yeah.
But I think he's been traveling a lot this year as well, last year, so maybe it's that. Anyway,
we'll have to reach out.
Got distracted. I was just thinking it's about time we got him back on the. We always said we were going to do a follow-up one after the Grand Tableau stuff.
I thought that we were supposed to
No.
be getting him on for him to give us his opinion on who is a proper occultist and who's just actually crazy.
Yes. I forgot about that one. Yes.
Yeah.
We were going to
Go for all the
deconstruct the
famous.
famous ones.
Yeah.
Maybe it's our fault. Did we not give him a list? Maybe we needed to give him a
Maybe.
list.
I think there is a list. I think we started a document, but we'll have to look. Let's keep that for obviously behind the scenes, and let's crack on with the podcast, Chris. So, what would you like to say? Because you picked the episode. Have you got something you want to get off your chest? Are you words of encouragement, words of wisdom, or are you just snarping at people?
Partly snarping, but I also had it on my mind because several piles of books have appeared around my house where I keep kind of opening books to start projects because it's the beginning of the year, and you've got all that intention at the beginning of the year to go and do these different projects. And so like one of the piles is that's currently on my desk is a pile of herbs and incense and tincture related books, because I'm at that point in the year where I'm going to start planning what things I'm growing or collecting this year, and I still trying to decide to what extent I'm going to go do it. So I suppose part of it is a shameless kind of targeting on my back, that if I say it publicly, then I have to stick to it. So because I said it on here, people will no doubt spend the next 6 months asking me about how it's going, and therefore I have that added pressure of it has to happen.
How's that mythology series coming? Because that's starting this Thursday, isn't it?
You're just going to say this Thursday every week, are you?
Well, it was supposed to start last Thursday, but I thought I won't draw attention to that because people might not realize that and they might give you the benefit of the doubt. But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be starting this Thursday, isn't it? The first episode?
It's supposed to be, yeah. So my hope is that
you
it
recorded it?
I haven't, no.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I haven't, no. I haven't had the time, Liam.
Right.
It's my first list. This week was my first. Why do you think I had a whole week booked out at Christmas for it? Is because as soon as work starts, the roller coaster goes, and I just have to try and keep up with it.
So is this going to be an episode a month then, instead of an episode a week, or what?
I don't know. It might end up being.
I
really hope not. I feel
there
like
are 12 months, so you could do one episode a month because there's 12 episodes, I think, weren't there? And we are still in January.
Yeah, I could do. But then I'd feel inclined that if I did it this month, then I'd have to do Capricorn first or something. And that would just freak me out. Because it'd be in the wrong order.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I'm going to try and do them weekly, or at the very least fortnightly.
Okay.
I think as soon as the first one's recorded, I'll just keep going.
So you're going to stay up late tonight and do the first one then?
No. No, Liam.
I'm sure there's a lesson to be learned in here, because put yourself in my position, right? And imagine you are a mentee, right? And they've come to you and they've said, Chris, I just can't do it. I've just got my life in the way. I've just started working that. What would you say to them? Would you tell them, well, how are you going to fix this? Are you going to do a time efficiency spell? What are you going to do? Just pull your fucking finger out and get on with it? I don't know. What would you say?
I think it's completely different, Liam, because I still keep because you are suggesting that I am somehow reneging on my responsibility, and I'm kind of like, actually, that series is premium content. So when I decide to do it, it's premium content. Whereas this is the standard content that we deliver. Is this and the 10 hours of mentoring that we have doing every week. Like, So actually, I've not reneged on any of my responsibilities. Thank you very much. This is a special project that I'm really looking forward to doing. So making me feel guilty about it is not going to help anybody, because my ODD kicks in then and goes, well, fuck you then, I'm not doing it.
It did have a deadline, though, which was this month, wasn't it? Yeah.
It also had a deadline this time last year.
So,
you know, what happened last year, Liam?
Right, anyway, in the last 10 minutes of the regular edition of the podcast, is there anything that you would like to say regarding Armchair Magicians or anything like that, or why you decided to pick this subject? Because you're clearly not calling out anyone specific that you're going to name or anything. This is just general. You said something about the beginning of the year, so this is a good subject.
Yeah, it's not about calling out specific people or anything like that, because actually I've been, you know, most of our mentees, I think, this year have started out in the way in which they mean to go on. I think this is more a kind of call at the beginning of the year that, for example, if you're listening to this half of the podcast and you've been regularly listening to this part of the podcast and you're now getting to the point where, like, actually, I need to stop being that armchair magician and pushing my practice a little bit further, that this is probably more of a marketing ploy to say you need to get yourself on the Patreon and actually, you know, get involved in making sure that your practice is. I think a lot of the people that we have as mentees push on because there's a date in the diary for the next time they're seeing us, and actually do well with those deadlines you were just judging me for. Because ultimately having that deadline of going, oh shit, I'm going to have to present something or at least update Chris and Liam about my progress, you know, which I think is self-evident from the fact that, you know, particularly when people have got stuff going on, big family stuff or whatever, and then they turn up to a meeting and they're like, I think this is going to be short, or I don't feel like I've, you know, made a lot of progress. And then me and you kind of dig at them, asking questions until actually they realised at the end of an hour, when they thought they were going to be 10 minutes because they didn't think they got anything to share, they've actually done a load of progression in those kind of 2 weeks since we saw them last. And kind of going, you know, actually, despite everything else that's been going on in your life, like the cat's dead, or someone's had a baby, or, you know, the in-laws have moved in for 3 weeks because it's Christmas, suddenly they still are able to kind of, you know, we tease out all the things they've actually been doing around all of that. And I think it's partly January is very much for a lot of people about kind of, you know, checking through what's happened in that last year after the season of obligation. That kind of first month where you kind of take stock, don't you, of what happened last year and what I want to improve on. And I think the answer should never be on that bucket list of I'm going to read 10 more witchcraft books or those sorts of things. They should be more about how am I going to go and do that walk, you know, the very little of going for a walk once a week, or, you know, planning some kind of astral work, or taking note of dreams and working through a problem, or ideally going back through their notes and going, did I go deep enough with something I already studied last year? What is the natural progression from that point? So I think, however much I love to slag off Wiccans and armchair magicians, I'm just more kind of going, can we turn this into a kind of teaching moment? And maybe we'll bitch a little bit more on the Patreon side, but kind of like on this side of just kind of encouraging people to actually, this time of year is the perfect time to kind of start that impetus and get on that good rhythm for the whole year. If you kind of just find ways to insert little bits of practice across your week, kind of start small, and then before you know it, it snowballs. because I don't think people take note of the little, the smaller magics they do more regularly, and look at those kind of opportunities to expand those. We start by saying things like, put some of that magic in your cleansing and your grounding and all that kind of stuff into your daily routine. Like, I think as soon as you start practicing that way, you've kind of opened up the floodgates then, and you start having, noticing things on the way to work, or you start manipulating things in the office. All of those sorts of things start to occur more because you're practicing more. I think people focus too much on, I've got to do this massive project, or I've got to suddenly master astral travel this week. Whereas actually, I think the small wins are the ones that kind of snowball into the bigger ones. Thinking about what you're going to use your dream time for, your kind of sleep time for, in the very little ways of kind of going, I want to explore this topic more, or stop reading about it, and kind of find an opportunity for you to go and, ferret away in the astral or the dream world, to see what you actually already know about that, that you've forgotten. Those sorts of things.
Well, of course, the wonderful thing about being mentored by us is, yes, we will set you deadlines and keep you held accountable to them. But the great thing is if you skip those deadlines and miss them, we'll use magic so that your actual life depends on getting that work done. And that's how people make true progress, isn't it, Chris?
Are you starting rumours again about us setting magical tasks that people aren't privy to?
I mean, there are only so many times that people can turn around and they can come back to me personally and say, well, sorry, I haven't done the homework. Sorry, I haven't done this. Before I give them an ultimatum of saying, are you going to get on with this? Or do you want to leave it here and we go our separate ways? Because you're obviously it's not a good time for you. At that point, of course, if they say, yeah, I want to continue, I'll put some magic in on to make sure that they do. If they decide themselves to leave, they've decided that this isn't for them. But from a mentor perspective, you see, Chris, I just see it as I'm doing my best to help them. And the best way to do that is they've proven to me and themselves, I think, that they're incapable of managing their own time. Therefore, I'll give them something that they have to fucking deal with. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? From a teaching perspective?
Maybe.
I think it does. I mean, they agreed to it. Is in the terms and conditions that are written on the astral paper, on psychic paper, Chris. If only they could read what signing up to mentoring actually means. But there we go. That'll be the conspiracy theories flying. So, we haven't really got a lot of time for the regular edition left, so I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions to you, and I'm going to see which ones you want to answer in the next extended edition. So one of the things I was thinking about is the everyday person that's coming to magic and wanting to learn or interested. What is it do you think that they are interested in? So is it specific skills, or is it just I don't know, wanting to get an overall? Is it some sort of spiritual development or something? And then the other one is, what do you think the best way to learn is if you don't know what you want to learn? Again. Because we get it, don't we? We get it all the time. Oh, I want to learn magic. I want to learn witchcraft and that. Okay, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't really know. What spell do you want to cast? Oh, I don't really know. Are you interested in any particular types of spirits, any particular types of books or interest? Herbal craft, anything? Oh, no, I don't know. I just kind of like all of it. And you get this kind of thing where we obviously do force them to pick something in their mundane world or mundane life that they have to then start working towards using magic to fix or alter and such. But in terms of like people, because not everyone's got a mentor like us, they've actually got to teach themselves, heaven for fucking bid. What do you think about that then? Any questions?
I don't know how I'm going to answer this in 10 seconds, but you know,